So, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this crazy stormy day. As you can see behind me, the beautiful Snells Beach, crazy weather. Yesterday I went for a walk down there and it was like sunshine and it was beautiful. And today it looks like a cyclone's hit us, but anyway. So Tammy and I have been friends for a long time, and also really intertwined in our, I guess, personal development, our development of health, and everything that we've done, we've kind of done alongside each other. And really, I've got a lot from my friendship with Tammy. And every time we have a chat, I always think, oh my goodness, everybody needs to hear this, because Tammy is always an absolute wealth of knowledge. And she's got so many great things to share. She's also super vulnerable and always tells me exactly what's going on with her. She doesn't try and gloss it over and be like, it's okay. She actually really digs deep and really puts the work in to work through whatever she's dealing with. Over the last year or so, or longer, she's been through a separation, and the parenting and the way that she's defining herself as a mother has changed a lot. And so, as a friend and as a woman and as a sister, we've been there for each other through ups and downs. And we just want to share with you guys some of the things that we've done to become like 100 times cooler than we were before. So we've been through some things, and I think just sharing some of the experiences and just some of the tools that we've put in place is, hopefully it will be beneficial to other women as well. And you may not be a mother yet, or you may never want to be a mother, but I think just defining your role as a human or as a woman is really important too. So I just want to introduce Tammy. She is an amazing, inspirational woman. When I first met her, she was running her own chiropractic clinic alongside her now ex-husband. And she had just had little baby Ollie. So I've seen the whole mother journey. And it's been sometimes a motherfucker, but other times amazing. So Tammy, I'd love you to share your story. And then I'd love you to share a few tools that you've used to become the amazing human that you are today.
Well, thank you, Amy. And I will embrace that I'm an amazing human. However, I also am an amazing human in progress, as we all are. And so I'm not going to share all of my story, because quite honestly, if I did, we'd be here for hours and we'd be here for days. But what I do want to share is that my journey has been one of many, many different iterations and versions of myself. And ultimately, I guess what that all came from is this initially a desire to help people, and secondly, a desire to actually unlock my magic and unleash my message into the world. And where that comes from is essentially that I believe that when I look at people and when I coach them and when I mentor them, when I worked with them as a chiropractor, like I literally have this ability, I feel, to look at somebody and feel their magic, and I can see their magic, and I can feel their potential. And I don't know if anyone else ever feels that when they're with people, like you're having a conversation with somebody or a friend, or it might be a coworker, or it might be, a client, or, a coach, and you're literally looking at them and seeing into them. And it's like, wow, like if only this person could see and acknowledge what I see. Has everyone ever felt that? Like, has everyone ever felt like you're with somebody and you're like, they're amazing? But so often as women, we don't acknowledge our own magic, or we don't, shout it from the rooftops, because we've got all of this conditioning around what it is to be a woman, what it is to be connected to our sensuality. We've got all these stories often about how we're too much, or too emotional, or too sensitive, or too this, or too that. And so we have this tendency to dim our light and to dim our expression and to not speak our needs or to not voice what's truly important to us. And so for me, I guess my journey with a big piece of that kind of started getting unlocked when Ollie was born. And we met Amy literally like a couple of weeks after Ollie was born. Ollie turns 7 next week. So almost 7 years ago now. And when I looked at this little child, all I wanted was for him to fulfill his potential and for him to live as the fullest expression of himself, and for him to know that he could be, do, and have whatever he desired to be and to do and to have in this world, and for him to truly remember that he could have it all, whatever it all meant to him. And so I believe that as women, we get to have it all. I believe as mothers, we get to have it all too. I believe that we get to have, amazing health and amazing energy, and we get to nurture ourselves. I believe that we get to have really hot, epic sex. I believe that if we're not feeling pleasure and like absolutely, orgasmic potential within our body, that we're dimming our possibility and we're dimming our expression. I believe that we get to have amazing relationships, and I believe that we get to have, to live on purpose and to be contributing into the world. And I also believe that we get to be making money in a really soulful way, in a way that really lights us up from within, and in a way where we feel like we're actually not only are we contributing to ourselves, but we're contributing to our world or to humanity. And now our world might be, literally just ourselves. It might be our children. It might be a partner. It might be, humanity on a very global scale. I believe that our world is whatever we choose to define it to be. And so the more I held this as like, well, this is what I want for my child, the more I was like, holy moly, where am I not embodying this for myself? And it brought up a lot of big questions for me. And it still does, like, I honestly feel like over the last 6 months, like I cry on the daily. I cry when I feel something amazing. I cry when I feel something sad. I question myself most days. Like, am I good enough to do this? Who am I? Like, am I really what, other people have said? Like, I honestly do. And at the same time, this understanding that who I am at a core level and the beautiful, body that I've been gifted in this lifetime to honor and heal the core wounds that this body gets to experience through its epigenetic expression, but also through the learnings and the conditionings and the experiences that my soul signed up for in this lifetime have perfectly led me to this moment in time where I get to be, I guess, like a permission slip, if you like, or be a beacon of light for others to actually step into their potential or to have permission to be whoever the hell they want to be. And I believe that, whether you're a mother or want to be a mother or never want to be a mother in the physical sense with physical children, as women, I believe we're all mothers, and men too, because men, even though they don't have a physical womb, they have an energetic womb. So we're always, a mother is just simply like we're creating, we're accessing those qualities of ourselves. So we're creating, we're nurturing, we're birthing creations into this world, whether that's a business or whether it's something else. It's just accessing those qualities within us. And I also believe that being a mother is also actually being able to mother and to nurture yourself first and foremost. And that's what I see a lot of, having worked predominantly with women over the last 17 years as a mentor and as a health professional, is that so often, most of the time in, initially in my experience, is that women are actually, we as women are generally the last thing on our to-do list. It's like, when I've created enough money, when the kids are looked after, when my husband's fed, when this has happened, when I'm pretty enough, when I'm skinny enough, like whatever the thing is, it's like we outsource our power, or we outsource when we'll be able to receive from ourselves until all of these different things have happened. And it leads to a lot of burnout. It leads to a lot of neurological stress, which then in turn leads to a lot of hormonal dysfunction. It often leads to us suppressing our voice, not speaking our needs, and not actually living our truth. And that leads to us living not our fullest potential and not living the most lit up, amazing and connected and juicy and inspired life that we possibly could. I shared something a while ago, and I was like, you know, basically I truly believe that if we're not kind of like wet and turned on by life, that we're living the wrong life. Like, I fully wholeheartedly believe that. I believe that we really do get to feel juicy and alive and turned on, you know, just by life itself. And that when we have that, then it's literally like we get to do life for the love of it. And so when we're choosing life and we're choosing to live, and if we're truly allowing ourselves to live life fully, simply for the love of it and because it just feels amazing and it's aligned to our values. Now, that's not to say it's always going to feel easy. In fact, sometimes it's going to feel really freaking hard. But if we know what we're kind of aligning to, then we can take these, you know, micro decisions in the moment, and what might feel uncomfortable for 30 seconds or a minute we can hold ourselves through that discomfort, because we know that on the other side of that is going to be pleasure, and we know it's going to be expansion, and we know it's going to be us feeling proud of ourselves. Whereas so often what we actually do is we make the decision that's comfortable and pleasurable in the moment, in the, you know, the 30 to 60 seconds that, you know, are right in front of us, but actually it takes us further away from the life that we want to live. And so we get to be really connected and actually allow ourselves to dream again, to allow ourselves to go back into a childlike state and to be like, okay, like, you know, if I could wave my fairy godmother wand and if anything could be possible in the next 6 months, like, what is it that I want? What is it that I actually desire to have within my life? And then we can ask ourselves from this place, well, who is it that I get to be? What are the actions that I actually took that allowed me to experience that? And we can really get clear on like what it is that looks like, and the actions that move us closer to those feelings, or when we take those actions, they allow us to feel a certain way. Now, on the flip side of that, what I also like to suggest that people do is actually to take themselves into a bit of a process of pain and to ask themselves, okay, well, if nothing changes, like if I don't actually get out of my own way, if I stay in my own funk, if I don't give myself permission to speak my truth or be a bit uncomfortable, if I don't give myself permission to go move my body or use my essential oils or drink incredible water or, you know, have chiropractic care or whatever the case may be, or just share my message, like, how am I going to feel in 6 months' time? What's life going to look like? Am I going to be proud of myself? Am I going to have energy? Am I going to be, you know, feeling alive and juicy and lit up from within? Or like, am I going to be feeling like actually quite deflated and depressed and whatever the case may be? And so if we can hold those two, you know, those two, I guess, consequences or the two outcomes from who we actually be along the way, then that allows us to kind of continuously make these decisions that are going to pull us forward. Because really all life is, it's just like this series of it's the outcome of an accumulation of micro decisions and micro actions that we make over and over and over again. And so for somebody, like, it might feel pleasurable to sit on the couch and watch TV or eat takeout. But they know that when they do that, that's actually moving them away from who they say they want to be. But if they've got clarity on the fact that, well, actually, you know, eating a meal or allowing myself to, you know, create a meal that's filled with nutrients and real life foods, that's actually going to make me feel amazing, even though it might not be convenient in this next minute, but that's actually going to make me feel amazing. Or, you know, going out the door for a walk, because, you know, like, once you get out the door, even if it's freezing, in 5 minutes time, you are going to feel like really good about yourself and really proud about yourself, because you are living in alignment with who you say we want to be, or who you say you know that you are at a core level. And so there's a lot of identity shifts that happen when it's like when we are owning these parts of ourselves, you know, rather than it's like, oh, I've got to lose 10 kilos, for example, I'm using weight because it's a really easy example. It's like, well, what is the losing 10 kilos or releasing the 10 kilos? Like, what does that give you? You know, who does that mean that you are? Does that mean that you're a healthy woman? Are you a vibrant and energetic and alive woman? You know, like when we make actions that are, and when we do behaviors that are in alignment with an identity that we've chosen, rather than like, if I do this enough times, then I'll have this and then I'll feel that, then we're much more likely to actually do them. It's like saying to if you ask somebody, you know, who's a smoker, for example, like, do you want a cigarette? And they're like, oh no, I'm trying to quit. I'm trying to give up smoking. That person still has the identity of a smoker. Versus if you ask somebody if they wanted a cigarette and like they might have quit smoking yesterday, but they're like, no, thank you, I'm not a smoker. That person, in my opinion, is much more, and from the research and with what habits show us, is much more likely to have success. So I'm just reading Amy's question. When you're in the mummy funk, how do you define your new identity? I think
so you know, when you're in that just making it through every day, scraping through, you know, doing your best bit, how did you go, I want to be this person? You know, like, how did you define that new identity or that new person, rather than, you know, being like, oh, I can't get there, it's unattainable, I'm not good enough, you know, all of those things?
Well, first of all, I think it's acknowledging, you know, a lot of people have a hard time acknowledging what they do want, but it is easy for them to acknowledge what they don't want. So if that's where it's easiest to start, like, acknowledge that. I don't want to feel tired. And write a list. So like, write a list of all the things that you're actually feeling. I don't want to feel tired. I don't want to feel like I'm in a mummy funk. I don't want to feel this. And so just allow yourself to write all of those things down on one piece of paper. And then take each of those things, and because our subconscious mind doesn't hear negatives, when you're saying, I don't want this and I don't want that, your brain's hearing that you do want that. So take that piece of paper, and then on the opposite side, okay, like, I don't want to feel tired. Well, what do you want? Like, I want to feel energized. Okay. And so that's then you kind of bridging the gap from that. And then the next step into turning it into an identity is, rather than I want to feel energized, which is putting it into the future and telling yourself that you're not actually able to have it right now. It's like outsourcing it into the future. The owning the identity and the embodying the identity of that would be, I am a woman who has amazing energy. I am a woman who feels vibrant and alive, or I am somebody who has like just radiates health and vitality, or I have amazing hair, skin, teeth, and nails, whatever it kind of, whatever represents that to you. And then from that place, it's like, okay, if I am this, how does that allow me to feel? And so we can anchor into those feelings of what that enables us. It's like, well, when I'm alive and lit up and vibrant, like, and I take those actions, I feel really proud of myself. You know, I feel confident. I feel empowered. And so then we ask ourselves, okay, like, if I am a healthy and vibrant and energized woman, what actions does that woman take? Like, what behaviors are a part of her just daily, her daily repertoire? And that might be, you know, it might be that she meditates for 5 minutes in the morning, or it might be that that woman allows her to have a herbal tea by herself, you know, before the kids get up. Or it might be that she moves her body in some way every day. Now, for me, like, moving my body in some way every day, like for the last week, that literally, well, the last 3 days, that literally has been turning on songs that I love and dancing naked in front of the mirror. Like, that's been my movement. Last week, it was going to hot yoga and hot Pilates. Sometimes it's going to CrossFit. Sometimes it's like lifting really heavy weights. Sometimes it's going to the gym. Sometimes it's doing, you know, a combination of like breath work and Tai Chi and yoga and quantum flow. Like, I don't have these conditions anymore on how much I have to work out or how much I have to do. It's literally like what feels good within my body. And so I have a toolkit that I pull from that allows me to tap into that. And I also started a couple of years ago playing with pH 360 and understanding my epigenetic expression. Turns out I was told I was the wrong thing, but believed what I was told and was doing all the wrong things basically for my biology. And so over the last 3 months, I've actually done the course myself and have that correct and what my body needs. And so I know for me that if I start my morning with pleasure and connection, my day is going to work so much more better and I'm a much happier person to be around. I also know that I need a epic metric ton of variety. So if I just try and do the same thing over and over again, it's not going to work for me. Like I'm the biggest rebel and you tell me to do something and I'll be like, nah. Like my instant reaction is to go, no. Even if I agree, like even if I agree in principle with the person, my kind of instant reaction is to go, no, because I kind of need to have figured these things out for myself. It's just how I work. But if I can be open, then I'll be like, oh no, actually that makes sense. And so I think the biggest thing that we can do is to give ourselves permission to, like, yeah, and lots of sex is very, very important. Is give ourselves permission to actually be willing to try new things as we go. Because I think often along the way, like what I used to have for myself is that I used to think I had to have it all perfect. You know, and I think a good example of that is like currently I'm in Wanganui with my ex-husband. I moved here so that he could do a locum position and we could have our son with, you know, his parents in in one city. I hate it. Like I literally, I do not like it one little bit. And so I've been going through this own process within myself of like, what does it mean for me as a mother if I move back from Auckland? What does it mean if I allow myself to be in a relationship with a man who lives in a different city, even though we were in Auckland before this? Like, what does that mean for me as a mum? Like, what does that look like? Like, and all of these questions around like, what will people think? And the reality is when you flip it on its head, and if you actually look at yourself, like I have no judgment on anyone else around how they choose to parent or how they choose to mother or how they choose to live their lives. And so if I'm trying to live life based on how I think I'm perceived by the outside world, if we try to do that, we will continuously live life for the wrong reasons. We'll never allow ourselves to truly feel the fullness and the richness of the life experience that could happen. And the reality is that I don't even have to know all the answers because I can just trial something. You know, we can just literally trial something and see how it goes. I can trial doing a locum in Auckland for 5 weeks, which I'm going to do, and be like, let's just see how it goes. Like, what does it look like to be a mum who has like amazing quality time with her child in the school holidays and who can set her life up around that? Like I'm so blessed and lucky, consciously lucky because I chose it, that I've been able to set up life in a way that, you know, at the moment I can drop Ollie off at school every morning and I can pick him up every afternoon and I can choose to not work in the afternoons or do anything other than spend connected time with him or, you know, go to the pools or do all those things. But that wouldn't have been my reality when I was full-time in chiropractic practice because I wouldn't have had that luxury around clients. So life gets to be, I truly believe, what we choose it to be. And when we are choosing and locking in a new identity, an identity that's slightly different from the one that we might have right now, what you need to understand is that it won't always feel comfortable. And what you need to also understand is that not everybody is going to necessarily resonate or be okay with you changing. Because oftentimes, particularly with family or friends, we get used to people being a certain way. And when people change, it brings up within themselves their own discomfort or their own fears or their own things to look at. And so what often happens for people is that rather than actually looking at themselves and like, oh, like what's this triggering within me, people will often project that onto other people and be like, you've changed, you're not the same person that you used to be, or you should be doing this or you shouldn't be doing this, and they'll be projecting their own stuff and their own triggers and their own woundings onto somebody else, rather than embracing and celebrating and being like, wow, it's amazing, like how you've been able to change, or how you've been able to become healthier, or how you've been able to become happier, or how you've been able to create a life that really works around your values, if you like. So just know that that's probably going to happen. It would be a bit weird if it didn't. The more that you continue to choose yourself, and the more that you continue to be a permission slip for yourself and for your children or for your family or for your community or for, the people that you choose to be connected with, the more you give them the opportunity to do the same. Every time we get sucked into like a people-pleasing rescue drama triangle, we're giving our own power away. And so, having learned from many times of doing this myself, is that oftentimes, like, it's not our, and particularly this is true for mums, like, it's not our job to take other people's pain away. It's our job to create this safe space and to be our fullest expression. And if something gets triggered or comes up within somebody else, like, we get to be like the lighthouse, and we get to be the beacon of light and the shining example of what's possible. But we don't get to go down and necessarily pull people out of their own muck and pull people out of their own storm. Even in the biggest storms, like the lighthouse, it just shines bright, and the ships see the lighthouse through the storm, and they allow that light to guide them to where they need to go. Whereas too often, particularly as nurturers and people who have like a lot of empathy or feel a lot, we'll like feel somebody's pain, we'll have epic and like incredible compassion and empathy for them, but then rather than like holding that space and being that example for them to step out of that, or step through that for themselves, we often go down and try to dig them out of their own puddle. And ultimately that doesn't serve anyone, because it doesn't serve yourself, because it's exhausting, and it doesn't serve them because it doesn't actually teach them resiliency to actually move through that. So when we're choosing to make a decision to lock into a new identity, the first place that starts with is a decision. And I know that like you'll all understand this, like, who here has ever like got to a point where they're just like, I am so done with this, or they've been kind of like contemplating something, but they've been pussyfooting around it a little bit, or dilly-daddling, and they'll be like, oh, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, like, oh, I don't know, like, what if I did this, like, blah, 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 like, if I do this, we'll try to quit something, or we'll try to do something, but we haven't actually locked it in. Versus like when you've made a decision, like, it's just done, and there's no there's this like this internal, it's like this kind of like whew, like it's just done, like there's no other way, there's no other option that I'm willing to contemplate. Like, I've just decided that it's going to happen. Yeah. And once you've made that decision, versus the questioning, the should I, the shouldn't I, all of those things, what then happens is that the world around us can actually, or the universe, or whatever it is that you want to call it, can actually start to bring the right experiences to us for our greatest growth. Or when we actually lock in and decide, it's like, I am somebody that's healthy. I am somebody who doesn't drink alcohol. I am somebody that allows herself to be in a relationship that actually lights her up or actually fulfills her. And when that's kind of like that internal, when the switch gets flipped, and it's like, that's it, I'm done, no more, like, this is how it's going to be. All of a sudden, what happens internally is that we show up in a different frequency or a different vibration. And it's like the world around us essentially responds to that. So the first thing is, like, you've got to choose it. Like, unless you actually decide that that's done, it won't happen. Like, you've got to actually decide. In terms of setting a timeline, to me, timelines can be helpful. And also at the same time, if it's like, I'm going to quit alcohol in 6 months' time, well, like, is that actually setting you up for success? Or do you actually just get to pull off the Band-Aid and be that person now? And if you choose to drink alcohol again in a month, that doesn't make you a bad person, and it doesn't make you a failure. It just means that you changed your mind, and that's perfectly okay too. Or maybe it was just meant that you decided that you wanted to have a little bit of a reminder of how good you felt when you weren't drinking alcohol. So I like to set intentions and timelines or things like that, or I like to kind of go out into like 3 months from now or 6 months from now. This is, and to like journal on like, this is what's going on in my life. This is how I feel. This is who I am. This is what I've created. This is what I've received. This is what I've achieved. And then from the place of having all of those things and feeling that way, it's like reverse engineering. And it's like, I look back at the past and I'm like, okay, so this is how I feel. This is what I created. This is what's going on in my life. Like, what happened? What were the aligned actions that I took to allow that to happen? Now, it's not saying that, other actions won't come up along the way, but it's like, if in 6 months' time, for example, I saw myself starting a podcast, I'm like, okay, I've started a podcast, it's launched, it's reaching this many people. Then I get to look back and be like, okay, well, what got to happen in order for that podcast to be launched January 2021? Well, the aligned actions would be like, I got to decide on a name, I got to book in speakers, I got to, organize interviews, I got to X, Y, and Z. And so then I would write all of those things down on my list, and they would be my aligned actions that I would start locking in and putting into my diary and into my schedule. Let's say, for example, Amy's a good example. She's just moved house. She's like, we're moving. Like, I'm done with Auckland. Like, we're moving to Snells Beach. Like, it's happening by this point. This is what's happening. Well, logically, if that's done, what's the first action? Get on Trade Me, look at properties, email some people, book in some times to actually look at them, make that happen. Same with when I moved to Australia 5 years ago, I think. Yeah, about 5 years ago. I had a practice to sell. I had a practice to transition. I had a house to rent. I had possessions to, like, all of these different things, right? And it was literally, that was a decision that I had wanted to do. I wanted to live in Queensland for years. And all of a sudden I was like, I'm just done with not living in Queensland. Like, there's just no way that that's not happening. And so as soon as I made that decision, like, instantly what happened was there was an email that came up through, like, in my emails about a practice that was for sale, not in Queensland, but somewhere else. And I was like, I don't know why, but I need to contact those people. And so I just listened to the nudges. And that led to my then husband getting the job that he got, that then allowed us to basically move to Queensland. Now, we'd been told that it was like 6 months, like it would be a 6-month time frame. And I was like, great, that will give me time to sell the practice, no drama, all perfect. The next week, they're like, positions come up sooner, like, can you be here in a month? And I was like, let's go. Like, let's go. Let's sell a practice, whatever. So from that decision, like, literally in a 10-week period, I had sold a practice, I'd transitioned to practice, I'd gone back into practice full time, like, I'd moved countries, I'd packed up a house, I'd rented a house, I'd sold cars, like, all of these different things. And that happened in such a condensed period of time because I got so clear that there was no other option than moving to Queensland. Like, that was the only option that was available to me. So if you choose that the only option available to you is actually like being a woman who like fucking blows her own mind and lives a lit up, juicy life from within and feels inspired and feels connected and feels alive and feels like energized, if you literally decide that that is just what's happening and you're so connected with that truth and it's so connected and so it feels so empowering and inspiring and it feels like so like, oh yes, like this is the life that gets to be lived. If you're so connected to that and you actually flip the switch and you choose that and you're like, okay, this is who I am. This is the life that I feel within, that I know that I'm here to live. And then you feel that, like Amy's just saying, you feel it in yourselves. And as you say, like as she wrote that, like I'm feeling tingling, you know, like I feel tingling and what, you know, how you feel like goosebumps. I feel them, call them bliss bumps. So it's like this kind of this bliss bump that kind of like bubbles up from within you because you know that you're actually speaking your truth and you know you're actually allowing yourself to embody more light. Now, when we embody more light, which is essentially in my way of looking at it, when we allow ourselves to be more of who we actually are, when we give ourselves permission to be ourselves, that doesn't mean you're not going to experience darkness. In fact, probably you're going to actually see more of your shadow. Like because you are having this ability to hold more light, you also have the ability to have more of your shadow come up from within. And so it's about being able to hold yourself in light, hold yourself in love and compassion and acceptance and abundance and expansion and being able to breathe and to be able to acknowledge and feel like those feelings that are coming up within you and just being like, it's okay. Like, it's okay to feel this. Like, it's okay to be feeling the feels and just accepting that whatever you're feeling is perfectly perfect. And if you're feeling pain, to me, pain is just being present with all that is now. It's all pain is. But we want to run away from those dense emotions, or we want to run away from the things that feel uncomfortable. And literally, if we can just open up and connect with that and accept it and allow ourselves to be, to experience those emotions in an expansive way, like particularly if we just allow ourselves to connect to our breath and to like let them flow through us, when we're able to just breathe, then our brain and our nervous system knows that we're safe and it knows that we're not going to die, and it just allows those things to flow through us. And actually every emotion that we're experiencing is just energy and motion. So if we can actually ask ourselves, like, how is this emotion happening for me? Like if we can be grounded and just connected in terms of like the eye of a hurricane, like there might be a whole lot of stuff going on in the world around you. Like it literally might look like some kind of chaotic shitstorm. But if you are able to stay connected and grounded to the heart of who you are, and if you are able to stay connected to that and be like, okay, like, how is this happening for me? Like, how is this serving me? Like, what's the gift that's happening within this? Like, how am I getting to reclaim my own power? Rather than feeding the negativity or fueling that with like, oh my God, like this is happening, I'm such a terrible person, like blah, blah, blah. We get what we respond to. So like we will receive how we respond to a situation, or how we will respond to a circumstance or to an experience, will literally determine what comes next in our life. And so everything that's happening within our life in every single moment is simply a feedback from the past. And so we can look at that feedback, we can reflect on that feedback, what we make that feedback mean about us is entirely up to us. But if we can literally just look at it logically and be like, cool, I did this, this happened, how do I feel about this? What worked? What didn't work? What did I learn from what didn't work? What do I get to realign to? What do I get to recommit to? But as humans, and particularly as women, we're so busy beating our own selves up and believing our own BS that we fall into these spirals that just really don't serve us. And so, you know, I truly believe that you are that the greatest gift that you can give your children, or to give your future children, or to give your community, is to be your own magic. You know, we all have magic inside of ourselves. And if we actually just allow us to be our own magic and unleash our magic and unleash our message and share our message with the world, whether that's like with one person or 100 people or 1,000,000 people, like it doesn't matter. It's like whatever is true to you, that we will literally create this, you know, this legacy of this ripple effect that's going to positively affect humanity for generations to come. And when I get to the, you know, the end of my life in this lifetime, I want to look back and be like, yeah, I left the world and I made a difference, and I left the world in a different place for my son. And because of who I chose to be, like Ollie got to see what it was like to have a mum who was happy, or he got to see what it was like to have a mum who followed her purpose but was also an amazing mum, or he got to see what it was like for a mum to be in a relationship with a man who truly, you know, honored her, or truly, you know, all of those things. I want him to see all of that. And the only way that he can experience that is if we be that. You know, we get to be the embodiment or be the example or the change that we want to see in the world. So it really does start, it starts with us, I truly believe, and it also starts within us.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tammy. That's so good. So good. Does anybody have any questions, or does anybody want to make a sound solid statement of who they want to be and who they want to show up for themselves and for their children?
Yeah, like what's one thing that you can shift, that you know gets to shift, that you know that if you shifted, like it would just create a ripple effect that changed so many things?
Mel, I know that your brain's going 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Thanks, Amy. I guess firstly, Tammy, I really resonate and relate to like living in or moving to a different town. I have been through separation and moved out of Auckland and then had to move back to Auckland again. So yeah, really get where you're at with that. And I guess just, yeah, even listening to you, like I feel like I've been through a lot of those things, like when you're talking about alcohol as well. That used to be a big thing, like, you know, every night, every weekend, it's like have a wine or just have something to, almost it was like just, hey, I've got through the day, I can have a glass of wine now. And then I think it was pretty much last year, I just was like, you know what, I don't actually need to do that. It's not really a great way of rewarding myself. And you know, when you've got like kids racing around after school and all of that sort of stuff, it's like to relax, you'd have the glass of wine, but actually you're not kind of being the best version of yourself doing that. Yeah, so I just, yeah, lots to think about. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you
so much, Mel. Has anybody else got any questions or anything to say to Tammy? Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now. Oh, Jelena, you look like you want to say something. I'm going to stop the recording now. And so if anybody has anything that they want to talk about a little bit more personal, then that would be good. So thanks so much, Tammy.